Hello and good morning. It is the morning. I just got out of bed. You can't tell by my shambled look. But I'm here to talk about my knitting origin story. And I'm going to share that today because originally I planned on sharing my prototype wedding skirt progress, but it is just a work in progress. So I'm actually going to hold off on that until it is casted off, blocked, and ready to go. But I will be working on it while we chat. Hold on, what am I doing? I gotta slip, knit, and then pass over. And now I can just go, all right. Now I can talk. Anyway, I digress. So I've been waiting to hear back from this job that I was really excited to potentially work at. And this morning I woke up and couldn't really get out of bed. So I just kept checking my email every 5 minutes because today's the day I was supposed to hear from them about next steps, and finally the email came in and it was a rejection letter. So that kept me in bed for another 20 minutes, I would say. And then it got me thinking that, okay, I need to not let this totally affect me and just keep on keeping on, keep moving forward. There's a job out there for me somewhere and I just haven't found it yet, and that's all it is. But it got me thinking about knitting, actually, and what knitting does for me, and why I started, why I continue, and really like the purpose of this channel as a whole. So basically, I started knitting in November of 2024. It was Thanksgiving. And my fiance and I were having his family over. And at the time, I wasn't drinking, I was taking a break. And so I don't know if you've ever been in that sort of situation where you're the only sober person in the room on a holiday. It's not very fun. So I needed something to do with my hands, and I needed to use my brain. I needed my brain to quiet, I guess. I don't know. I just needed something. So I went down into the basement and I pulled out my old knitting needles and some old scrap yarn, and I just started playing around. I had this stuff because I had tried to start knitting back in 2020 and also in 2016. It didn't stick either time. I made a couple of shitty hats and then stopped. But this time, after that Thanksgiving, it did finally stick around, and I'm so glad that it did. You know, I think mostly it stuck around because I was also working a job at the time that seriously burned me out every day, and I realized that I was spending a lot of time couch ratting or playing video games for way too long. So I needed something more fulfilling to do with my downtime, more relaxing, I suppose. And I also was reading up on, you know, healthy dopamine versus unhealthy dopamine, and I was looking for some good dopamine, and I guess knitting does that for people. It gives you the good dopamine. But I don't really know so much about all that. I haven't read into the science of knitting. I plan to, and I'd love to talk about it here. I just haven't gotten there yet. But anyway, so I'm sure this is true for most Americans, but I am someone who suffers from anxiety and chronic depression. What I've found that knitting does for me with these mental challenges is it really slows my thoughts down. It's like a meditation, kind of. But I also get to be productive with my hands, and I can see progress in action, and that makes me feel good. So it's meditative and rewarding simultaneously. And also, it gives me control when other things feel messy. I think this is something we all really super need. But mostly it helps me just kind of sit with feelings instead of numbing them, which is important for processing the things that we go through on a daily basis. You know, you can't just ignore your feelings and push them down. You have to process them unless you want them to just live in your body. Excuse me, need coffee. You know, it really stuck around for me this time because it became just part of how I take care of myself. It reminds me that I can take things slowly, and that's totally okay, especially because in my line of work, it's all about designing at speed and moving faster and faster and using AI to become more productive, and that's all well and good for that side of my life, but because I have that going on, I mean, even though I'm not working, I'm doing the job hunt and studying my career, learning, growing constantly. You feel that, and when that's part of your life in some factor, I think it's really important that we also make space to create just for the sake of creating. So that's what this channel is really all about. I wanted to make space for myself here and invite an audience to join my space. One of the biggest things that I've gained from joining the knitting community is a sense of belonging, I think. When I meet other knitters, there's no feeling of hierarchy, like, oh, I've been doing this longer, I know more than you. Like, that's just not a thing. You know, people seem to notice effort rather than perfection. And no one asks if you're good at it. They ask what you're working on, what you're learning. And best of all, you immediately just have so much to talk about with perfect strangers. And you can avoid all of that extra small talk, which gives me so much anxiety. I can't do small talk, at least not for very long, without dying inside. So yeah, it really feels like such a supportive space in this chaotic world that we're currently living in. And it really came to me at a time that I needed it most, and it's here for me now, which is wonderful. And I think it carries me through all of my most rough patches. My most roughest, I don't know if that makes sense, whatever. So if you can relate to any of this, go ahead and subscribe, because I'm going to keep talking about stuff like this. You know, aside from sharing works in progress, as well as tips and tricks and techniques that I learn along the way. Like I said earlier, I want to read and learn more about how knitting helps to reshape anxious and or chronically depressed brains, because I know that there's some studies behind that, and I think that that's directly relevant to my life. So yeah, subscribe for more. We'll be friends. But also, yeah, if you've taken the time to watch this, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from like-minded people, and I very much enjoy exploring different perspectives around the same idea. So tell me, when did you start knitting or crocheting? You know, it's very similar. I do a little bit of crochet, but I haven't really practiced that much, although I do plan to eventually. Yeah, when did you start knitting? What does it do for you? Or even tell me about the first thing you ever tried to make, or what you're working on now. Anything you want to share, I'm here for it. But anyway, in the next video, I'll be walking you through this skirt with the train that I'm working on right now, which I'm pretty excited about. And I can't wait to talk about what I've discovered in the process, and to talk about the failures that I made before I got to this point. This is the second one, actually, but we'll get there. So till then, thanks for listening, and happy knitting, and I'll see you next time. Later, y'all.